Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty podcast, coming at you live on the YouTube channel presented by the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network. I'm Bo. That's Brant. Took a week off last week, Brant. We had some conflicting schedule stuff going on, and it was kind of a slow week in the NFL world and the fantasy world, especially. But we did get to the combine last week. We're going to talk about that pretty good in depth. We had some franchise tags get put down, some players that we thought might get tagged again didn't. Obviously, the fantasy relevant stuff. T. Higgins was kept by and tagged by the Bengals. Saquon Barkley not tagged. Russell Wilson cut by the Denver Broncos. There's just been a lot of tags and things that have not placed on fantasy guys that we thought maybe might get tagged. Calvin Ridley was allowed to walk by the Jaguars. It sounds like he's going to be a hot commodity all off season. A lot of people think he might be the number one wide receiver. Mike Evans re-signed. So there's been a lot going on, Brant, that we're really not going to focus on and talk about too much today because we want to talk mainly about this combine results and these incoming rookies.
Yeah, we definitely want to talk about this combine and the incoming mock drafts that are going on right now. Break down our first mock draft. But yeah, it's like you said, Pittman was another big name that did stay with his team, and we'll get in depth on that possibly, hopefully next week as the new year starts because more cuts are going to be coming. So next week we'll get into that. I think a little bit more of that. But this rookie class, it was really weird combine with a whole lot of names. Caleb Williams opting out, Penix only throwing. I mean, it was a really weird combine to go through this year. I kind of wasn't really too interested in it a whole lot. But there were some big things and some people that didn't make names for themselves.
Oh, absolutely, Brent. There were some guys that really improved their draft stock and some guys that sure hurt their draft stock. We're going to get in and talk about that a little bit, as well as we're going to go through and talk about some of the fantasy relevancy from one of the latest mock drafts from the CBS website. So, Brant, we got to get these bibs on. This is going to be a juicy episode. A lot of incoming rookie stuff to talk about. I don't want to get my nice shirt messy. I got to put the bib on.
And let's see.
All right, Brant. So obviously it's that time of the season. We've got all kinds of rumors swirling. All the coaching vacancies are finalized. We're getting ready to start free agency, the legal tampering period Monday. I expect some big names to be off the board early Monday. There's the rumors of Kirk Cousins coming to my Atlanta Falcons, potentially moving to a school, his kids there, buying a house. There's all kinds of stuff in the news right now about fantasy and the tampering period, or about football, and the tampering period hasn't even actually started yet. So it's going to be a wild week next week, I expect. Coming off the combine, we decided this week we wanted to get into a mock draft. And like I said, Brant, we're going to talk about this most recent mock draft done on CBS's website. Now, this mock draft does have some trades in it, and we're not going to go through all the offensive tackles and the defensive guys that aren't fantasy relevancy or don't have fantasy relevancy, excuse me. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these guys that are going to have some fantasy relevancy, whether or not you like where they went in the draft as far as the team fit and what it changes about the fantasy culture of that team moving forward, Brant. So let's start at the very top. Pick one, Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams. This one's starting to seem like it's a no-brainer. I don't think the Bears end up messing this pick up, Brant. So tell me what you think about Caleb Williams in Chicago.
So I don't like it. I don't like it. I think they need to stick with Justin Fields and build around him, sell this pick off, get themselves some offensive line help. Um, I think you're gonna go you're gonna backtrack and you're gonna do the same thing with Caleb Williams that you just did with Justin Fields. I'm not comparing the two. I haven't seen Caleb Williams play in the pros. But if the man doesn't have time to throw the ball, we saw Caleb Williams in college. He didn't play very well against Washington and Notre Dame and some of the other colleges because he didn't have the supporting cast. He doesn't have the supporting cast in Chicago. So I think it's going to be a long road for Caleb Williams if this is the route that they decide to go.
Yeah, so I actually love this pick. I do think Caleb Williams is by far the best quarterback in this class. I do think he's a generational talent. I do think you're right about the Bears having to do some things to support him, and not to get too far ahead of myself, but we'll talk about their second pick here in just a little bit, where I think they did do a decent job of showing some support to Caleb Williams. I don't know how I feel about Caleb Williams as a person. Like, I really don't like a whole lot of what I saw from him. I didn't like the running and crying to his mom in the stands after getting beat. I didn't like that the backup came in the bowl game, threw 6 touchdown passes, and was huddled up with everybody else in USC saying, "Hey, we're finally a team. We finally got a quarterback." So there was a lot I didn't like. And then you come put Caleb Williams on a stand at the press conferences of the combine, and he's talking about Michael Jordan and Walter Payton, and he wants to be a legend in Chicago. And it's like, settle down, fella. You haven't even had a snap yet. And I just feel like there's some pretentiousness to him that I just don't like, with the painted fingernails of, slander to your opposing teams that you're playing. And then the other part of the report comes out, and it's like he's the last one to leave the combine. He thanks all the volunteers for their work. It sounds like he's doing all the right things, but my head wants to instantly say, "Oh, the bad reps out there. He's doing things to try to make up for it. He doesn't mean it." I don't know this kid at all, Brant. I'm just totally judging him, which is not fair. But as far as what I've seen on the field, the arm talent's amazing. I do think passing wise, this is an upgrade over to Justin Fields. It would be great for Cole Kmet. It would be great for DJ Moore. DJ Moore had one of his best seasons in his career last year. I think it would only get better with Caleb Williams. Obviously, it resets the idea of winning early in Chicago, because your rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams is going to have some growing pains in the NFL. We saw that with Andrew Luck. Trevor Lawrence is still trying to get it figured out. So these generational talents don't hit always, ground running and just take off. So I think I'm split, or we're split on this. I think it's a good fit. You're not really crazy about it. You'd rather see him build around Justin Fields. But it does seem like this is the pick that's probably going to be happening when this draft actually takes place, Brant.
Yeah. But you judging him is exactly what front offices are doing too. So that type of stuff is exactly what the front offices and the coordinators and stuff are doing as well.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. Pick number 2, another quarterback off the board, Brant. The Washington Commanders select Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback out of LSU. Tell me about Dan Quinn getting his quarterback of the future.
I absolutely love Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to be one of the best quarterback fantasy-wise out of this draft. Going to Washington, I don't know. Sam Howell was able to put up some good numbers. He was able to keep his team competitive for a lot of games. I know they didn't win those games. I honestly could see Dan trading this one out and going a defensive-minded. But getting a quarterback in there with Jahan Dotson and now Zach Ertz, I think I just read he signed somehow. I don't know exactly how that worked. I guess he was cut prior to. So with Zach Ertz and Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, I think Daniels could have a very good year with this. And it gives him a chance to kind of learn the ropes a little bit. You don't have to toss him right into the fire pit.
Yeah, so I agree. I like a lot of what I saw out of Jaden Daniels. Should be a slow burn, if you will. Also, you get to pair him with Cliff Kingsbury, who's a pretty bright young mind as well. But another thing that I really like is they've got a solidified run game in Washington. Brian Robinson really solidified himself last year. Mm-hmm. I think that takes another step forward this coming season. Like I said, you got Cliff Kingsbury. You mentioned the good receiving core. Plus, I'm going to add Curtis Samuel in there, who's been good the last couple of years as well. So I definitely like what I'm seeing would like what I would see out of Jaden Daniels going to Washington. I think that becomes an easy super flex second pick off the board probably. Again, I would like that for Scary Terry. I would like that for John Dotson. Scary Terry's played with so many different quarterbacks, coordinators, the whole 9 yards. You're kind of rooting for that guy to get somebody in there that makes some sense. So I like Jaden Daniels. No argument out of me on that one, Brant.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll go out ahead and go over the third pick, and that's the New England Patriots selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. How do you feel about this one?
Marvin Harrison Jr. is the consensus number 1 overall pick in non-Superflex dynasty leagues. I don't want him catching passes from Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi. I don't know, Brent. I don't love the fit. I love the player. I just don't know if this is the best landing spot for Marvin Harrison potentially. Again, I still think Marvin Harrison's talented enough, but there's some other wide receiver fits that we're going to talk about later in this first round that I like better than the New England Patriots. This may be enough for me to get to leapfrog Marvin Harrison in my rankings if this is how he actually falls.
Yeah, I don't like the fit. Who's throwing the ball? Like you said, who's throwing the ball to him? This man is talented. He's amazing. If he's still on the board at number 3, I do see him getting picked by New England, unfortunate. And as it looks right now, he is going to be on the board at number 3. I absolutely love this guy. He's very talented. His catchphrase is phenomenal. But somebody has to be able to throw the ball more than 5-10 yards. To really make this guy, thrive. I understand Bailey Zappi has a huge arm, but he's not the most accurate down there. So,
correct.
Fantasy-wise, this would scare the bejesus out of me, just like any wide receiver in a New England uniform.
Now, that's not to say that the Patriots couldn't go after, a Jacoby Brissett or somebody like that, Gardner Minshew in free agency and get something in there that's an upgrade at the quarterback position that maybe it makes it more appealing. But on today's date, which is the 6th of March, I don't love Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Patriots, Brant. Got another wide receiver coming off the board at 4. Why don't you take us through this one as well, Brant?
I don't want to. I absolutely would hate this because I love this kid and I'd hate to see him playing on a rival. That's Roma Duze going to the Arizona Cardinals at number 4. He's talented. He's a big body wide receiver, 6'3", 215. I think this makes the most sense if Marvin Harrison is gone. I do think it makes the most sense for Rome to be there in Arizona. So it makes sense. Fantasy-wise, he instantly becomes the number 1 in that offense. And I think it opens up a lot more for Hollywood Brown as well. So I love this fit, though.
Hollywood Brown is a free agent. He could re-sign back to Arizona. I know that's been something that would be talked about. But I do think Rome would fit really good opposite of Michael Wilson. Him and Trey McBride in the red zone would be just nasty as it'll get out. One of the most physically gifted wide receivers we've seen since DK was drafted, Brant. And one of the things that I absolutely loved about Rome at the Combine, because he did participate, the 3-cone drill, he came out and put up I think a 6.9, and he was determined. He wanted to stay out on that field. He ran it several times after they stopped recording times to try to get to a 6.6. That's what he wanted to be at so bad. And I don't know whether he actually got there or not, but that was where he was trying to get. And, hey, just for the sake of things, Julio Jones back in the day when my Atlanta Falcons traded up to get him, ran a 6.6 in the cones. So, Rome's a talented wide receiver. I think this is the type of guy that he walks in the door in Arizona, and this may be the wide receiver I take over Marvin Harrison at the Patriots because he's connected to Kyler Murray for the long term. No real threat to him as a number 1 in that system. This may be one of those picks, Brant, that I just absolutely really fall in love with. Now, I'm going to say this too. If Marvin Harrison Jr. comes off the board before the Cardinals pick, there's no way in the world that Arizona doesn't open this pick up for business. Best offer takes it. Let some quarterback needy team come up and get their quarterback, trade back, and still either get Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze. Goodness gracious, I'm having a stroke over here. They're going to be able to do that and capitalize on the draft equity as well. So as far as that goes, I just don't think they stay there.
Absolutely.
Speaking of quarterback needy teams, this one's a little bit of a surprise because of the contract they gave out to their most recent quarterback. We're skipping down to pick number 6, which belongs to the New York Giants, taking quarterback J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan, Brant. Again, I say this is surprising because they can't get away from Daniel Jones. He's not going anywhere. It's not a cuttable contract. They just signed him to a 4-year, $40 million per year deal last offseason. What do you make of J.J. McCarthy to the New York Giants, Brant?
I don't think this pick happens, and here's why. I think the Giants actually go out, and I think there's a veteran that just got cut that's going to be in a Giants uniform. I think Russell Wilson's going to be in a Giants uniform after free agency. If that doesn't happen, I think McCarthy is very talented. I think that he could be a little bit better than Daniel Jones. I still don't know if I trust that whole team altogether, especially with Barkley out the door as well. So I don't know how much I like McCarthy here. I do think he could thrive in a system, but I don't know if it's in New York.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I like about this for J.J. McCarthy if this were to happen. One, there's probably no pressure on him to play right off the jump because the Giants could come out and say, hey, listen, we want him to sit behind Daniel Jones for a year or whatever. And Jones is on this big contract, so whatever. It gives McCarthy a chance to potentially sit behind Daniel Jones if he doesn't look ready right off the jump with the Giants. The second thing that I love about this is you're pairing J.J. McCarthy with Brian Daboll, who did a damn good job developing Josh Allen in Buffalo when there was all the questions about his accuracy and all those things. So JJ is very similar style-wise to Josh Allen as far as he's got a decent-sized arm. He's very physically gifted. He can get out of the pocket and run. Problem is we just didn't see a whole lot of McCarthy because of Jim Harbaugh's style of offense in college. There wasn't a whole lot of passing. I've really grown to love J.J. McCarthy because this is a guy that I kind of want my Falcons to take a shot on, Brant. So I definitely have my own affections towards J.J. McCarthy, and I don't hate this for the Giants. The problem is Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Darren Waller, whatever. This has been a pretty lackluster wide receiver group. So, I love my Giant wide receivers in fantasy, Brand. I can't seem to stay away from them. But I don't know as though the supporting cast is there right off the jump for him to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be an uphill battle for him for a little bit of time.
Okay, so we have a quick question here. We're gonna go ahead and pop on and answer this. Tony says, "Where do you think the best fit for JJ will be?" I've already said I think I'd like to see him in Atlanta, but again, at the same time, if it's not someplace like Atlanta, I think him sitting behind a veteran quarterback for a year, someplace where a quarterback's phasing out of the door, gone, and he's got a year to really develop. Just because we haven't seen enough of him, he hasn't done it enough. I don't know, Brant. Like, it's not possible because of where they're at in the capital they have, but like something like New Orleans to sit behind a car for a year, which again isn't going to happen. But something like that, I think, could be a really good spot for JJ. I still think personally, I want him to come to Atlanta, play for my Falcons. Where do you think's a good spot for JJ?
I want to see him in Seattle, backing up Geno Smith. I think that would be a good fit for him. I've grown to like this kid a lot. So I would like to see him in Seattle. If the Vikings re-sign Kirk Cousins, I would like that fit for him as well, to get a sit behind Cousins or even take over for Cousins for the first few games while Kirk Cousins gets back. So I think, like you said, sitting somewhere or having that veteran presence would be a good thing for him. So Seattle behind Geno, with hopefully Pete still whispering in his ear a little bit, because Lord knows Pete can make quarterbacks relevant. Atlanta would be a good fit for him. New Orleans would be a good one. Honestly, Tampa Bay wouldn't be bad if they re-signed Baker for just a one-year deal.
Right. He also follows it up by saying, as a Patriots fan, do you think if Harrison Jr. is available at 3, should the Patriots take him or go the quarterback route? So, Tony, we did talk about this a little bit at the beginning of the mock when we started going through. This mock does have Marvin Harrison going to the Patriots. Neither one of Brant and I really love it until they get the quarterback situation figured out. Now, if they were to address quarterback in the free agency period, I haven't heard about them being players for Justin Fields or anything like that. But if they were to happen to get a quarterback that's better than Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, I'm all for Marvin Harrison. I think he is the most talented player in this draft for sure. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if he's catching passes from Mac Jones, who hasn't shown anything to this point.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on. So we talked about the Chicago Bears at 1 taking Caleb Williams. You weren't really a fan of it because of the supporting cast. They said, "We hear you, Brant. We know we got to take care of that." So at the 9th pick overall, they drafted Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver out of LSU. Does this help your thoughts on the supporting cast in Chicago?
No, I got to see their line be able to be healthy and actually protect. They missed so much time of injury. You never got to see this line. Justin Fields was constantly under pressure. So, no, you need to get the line. You have to be able to protect your value, especially if you're going to spend that 101 over there on Caleb Williams. You have to be able to protect him too. So unless you're going to protect him and spend all your money on some offensive linemen and free agency, I don't know. Yes, he gets the weapons. I absolutely would. I would salivate over his weapons with DJ Moore and Neighbors and Cole Kmet. But if he doesn't have the time to get the ball pushing downfield, then it could be extremely hard. Not to mention the running backs. What you got 4 of them back there, and none of them can do a whole lot or did a whole lot.
I will say, yes, I know Justin Fields was under pressure a lot last year in Chicago, but he also held the ball longer than we've ever seen any NFL quarterback hold the ball. And a lot of that was probably to do with wide receivers not being able to create separation. So, again, maybe a Malik Neighbors does help that out. And, Caleb Williams held the ball a long time in college, too. So I'm not saying he's the answer to that problem. But if we can get the ball out a little quicker because we've got wide receivers in DJ Moore and Malik Neighbors stretching the field, getting open quicker than the 3.5 seconds that Justin Fields released the ball in last year, you're going to trim down those sacks naturally anyway. And competent coaches, I'm not saying that Chicago necessarily has competent coaches, but competent coaches would get the ball out of a quarterback's hand quick to protect them. I know that hasn't happened with Justin Fields a whole lot, but maybe it will with Caleb Williams. As far as Malik Neighbors goes, pairing him with Caleb Williams, I love. From Malik Neighbors, this is another one that if Marvin Harrison goes to the Patriots and you don't love the quarterback situation there, again, I could see Malik Neighbors going in front of Marvin Harrison under this situation where he's going to be catching passes from Caleb Williams.
Okay, absolutely. With pick 11, we got the Minnesota Vikings, and this is a pick that I do like, and that's Drake May, the quarterback out of North Carolina. In my mind, he gets to learn from Kirk Cousins if he resigns. The thing I keep saying Kirk Cousins resigning is Cousins did get hurt, so I don't know how much capital and everything's going to be out there for him to sign with a new team. So I think he actually ends up staying in Minnesota, and I think that it would be great for Drake May to learn from him.
So I'm going to be honest, I hate it, Brant, because if my Falcons pass on Drake May at 8, there's a chance I may go ballistic. So for that reason, I hate it. Now for Drake May, absolutely love it. You're telling me you're locking and loading him into Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, along with Kevin O'Connell as his head coach. Yeah, give me all of the shares of Drake May. I think he would absolutely thrive there. He's from Minnesota. He was one of the best recruiting candidates to ever come out of the state of Minnesota. Just an absolute stud. This can't happen. I would hate this as a Falcons fan. So we'll see. We did have the pick 12 traded, Brant, from the Denver Broncos, probably because the quarterbacks are off the board in front of them. They did trade it to the Jaguars, who took a cornerback, which we're not going to talk about. If you want to talk about pick 13 next, Brant.
Pick 13 is Brian Thompson Jr., wide receiver out of LSU, going to the Las Vegas Raiders. He's a big body guy. He'd be opposite of Devontae Adams. Not really sure who's going to be throwing the ball there in Las Vegas. So until I figure that out, I can't tell you how much I like this pick or don't like this pick. It makes sense for them to get another weapon, especially if Adams decides he wants to move on. So this could be a good pick for them, but I have to see somebody throwing them the ball.
Yeah, so again, this is another team rumored to be interested in potentially Justin Fields in a trade market with Antonio Pierce there. There's another team that's been rumored trying to trade up in the draft. However, I like Brian Thomas if they were to stay where they're at. Hunter Renfrow has been lacking. I know Jacoby Myers looked good last year, but just throwing another good player into the fold. Aiden O'Connell looked okay at times last year. Maybe they run it back with him. Obviously, we know it's not going to be Jimmy Garoppolo under center next year. But yeah, I think this is a good pick for the Raiders. However, I would be very shocked if an Antonio Pierce head coach first pick isn't some nasty defensive type dude like a Jared Verse or somebody of that nature to pair along with Max Crosby right off the bat and solidify their defense. Tony, we will get to that next question you sent. Let us get through the rest of this mock draft real quick, and then I'll hit that up. Next pick, we've got pick 14. We've got Brock Bowers, the super talented, hyper talented tight end, coming off the board to the New Orleans Saints. Love Brock Bowers, Brant. Don't know if I love him going to New Orleans. I don't feel like it makes a whole lot of sense personally. I feel like they could do a better job of putting a wide out outside of, Chris Olave or potentially putting a piece on defense with all the talent they're going to have to cut to get under the salary cap. What do you think about Brock Bowers to New Orleans?
I love Brock Bowers. They don't have a tight end really right now. He could be a great receiving threat. So I don't hate it. I'm not a big fan of it, but I don't hate it.
Okay. All right. Then we move on down to pick 17, where the Broncos traded back. They did end up going with their quarterback of the future, I guess, if you want to call him that. He's like 100 years old. But Bo Nix, they did take at the 17th overall pick in their trade back with the Jaguars in this one, Brant. What do you make of Bo Nix to the Denver Broncos?
Somehow you cut Russell Wilson and still get older at quarterback. That's crazy. It makes sense for them to go after a quarterback in this draft. I don't know if Bo Nix really needs to be up this high. But if he is, he's going to be almost a day one starter there, minus them citing a veteran. So I do like this pick.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix is probably the most ready to start week one NFL prospect we have in this class. So I do think I like it for, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, if they're both in Denver still next year. Outside of that, Sean Payton is going to be good with whatever quarterback he gets, I think, outside of Russell Wilson. So I can't say I hate it. I don't know if it's necessarily a huge the needle move for me, Brant. But Bo Nix, to get under center on a rookie contract, trading back, probably getting some more draft equity in that trade with the Jaguars, it makes sense for the Denver Broncos. I can't say I hate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's float down. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25. All right. And that is you want to say the first name so I don't butcher it?
So, I will, but this is a pick that the Bills traded up with the Green Bay Packers to get up to the spot to draft the wide receiver, Adonai Mitchell.
Adonai Mitchell, okay. I love it. Adding a wide receiver to Josh Allen, I absolutely love, especially if Stephon Diggs moves on. I absolutely love this addition. This is a big body guy at 6'4", 196. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, so for me, this is one of those things. As a Dalton Kincaid owner and truther, it kind of hurts me a little bit to say this, but Gabe Davis has been streaky at best in his entire time in Buffalo. The Bills have tried like hell to make somebody stick opposite of Stephon Diggs to take some pressure off of him and Josh Allen, and they finally did it with this trade here. In typical Green Bay Packers fashion, they in the first round, instead of drafting the stud wide receiver, they trade back and let somebody else come up and do it. So, I like that. Adonai Mitchell instantly, again, in my mind, that's a top 10 rookie pick in startup drafts. Just because of how, again, tied to Josh Allen in a high scoring offense right off the jump. Not much not to love here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that rolls right into, I believe, pick 32 is the next.
It is. Yes, sir.
That rolls right into Xavier Worthy going to the Kansas City Chiefs. As long as he can catch the ball, I absolutely love it. You get paired with Patrick Mahomes for the future. As long as you're able to catch the ball, this is an absolute great pick. We saw his speed, so you could be seeing a Cheetah 2.0 there.
So I do like it because Rashee Rice is a big body guy. They're talking about Rashee Rice work in the middle of the field, so this gives them a field stretcher that they've wanted with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore. The list goes on and couldn't stick. However, first time Honey Badger or Jamal Adams on the Buffalo Bills or somebody of that nature smacks this 165-pound framed wide receiver. I'm nervous about that, Brand. I'm not sure how well this guy holds up. Obviously, it's a great story. His combine stock, which we're going to talk about here in just a second, really exploded through the roof with his 40 time. I'm not sure he was a round one wide receiver prior to the combine, but here we are, 4.21 40, fastest recorded 40 time in NFL history, and we've got him going in the first round. Now, here's my problem with this. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it one time. The last time the Kansas City Chiefs drafted in the 32nd pick and took a skill position player in the first round, it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who we all were guilty of immediately leapfrogging over much more talented players in that draft, like Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, who's been unhealthy at times. And a lot of people regret that, right? I will not fall victim to that. I'm not moving Xavier Worthy over. Probably not Brian Thomas, probably not Rome Odunze, probably not Malik Neighbors, not Marvin Harrison Jr., potentially, I could see you making the case for his teammate in Texas, Adonai Mitchell, but not if Adonai Mitchell goes to the Bills. I'm not doing that still. So that's my 2 cents on Xavier Worthy, Brand. I still think it'll be a good story, but yeah.
Absolutely. But it would be a great fit, but I don't want to be the victim of that one, jumping ahead of everything, because I still think Rashee Rice will be the number one guy there.
All right, let's answer a couple questions from Tony real quick, and then you and I are going to talk about some things that we liked and saw from the combine that we were fans of. So Tony says, I know it's not fantasy season, but I value both your opinions in my keeper league and keep 2, of course. I'm keeping CMC, but not sure the second keeper. Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, or Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Oh, man. You're keeping CMC. I think you keep Amon-Ra St. Brown. That way you have a number one running back and you have a number one wide receiver. You're already set there. So I think you keep St. Brown, honestly.
I'm keeping CMC and I'm keeping Bijan Robinson. I think that's the number 1 and number 2 running back, respectively, in fantasy next year. I'll let you decide who's going to be number 1 and who's going to be number 2. But I do think Arthur Smith being out of town, being cute with his play calling, is going to be good for Bijan Robinson. Bijan's come out and said he wants to have a 2,000-yard rushing season. We all got excited about Tyreek saying that same thing. I think Bijan's capable of doing that. I listen, when the head coach gets up on the podium and asks, what do you like about this team? And he immediately says Drake London and Bijan Robinson. Those guys are going to get featured. So I like Bijan moving into next season, Tony. Okay. And then to follow up with this last question, he says, big Michigan fan in mock drafts. Have you seen Roman Wilson and Blake Corum get drafted? So Roman Wilson, I want to talk about first of all. Roman's not going to go in the first round unless something crazy happens. Neither is Blake Corum, for that matter. No running backs going in the first round this year. I think Roman Wilson gets drafted early in the second round. Him and Ladd McConkey from Georgia have kind of really raised their draft stock up in that combine. And I do think Roman Wilson goes to a wide receiver needy team. And I'm going to be honest with you, Tony. I think my Atlanta Falcons are a player for Roman Wilson later on in the draft. We have 1 wide receiver under contract, so I think we'll take 2 or 3 potentially in this draft. So I like Roman Wilson. I think he's a second, third round draft pick. He does go. Blake Corum, I'm going to talk about a little bit more here in just a second anyway, Brant. So I'm going to let you talk about this for a split second, and I'm going to take Blake Corum.
I don't know where the Chargers draft in the second round, or if they do, but Blake Corum makes the perfect sense to be added to that team. You got Harbaugh came into town. Austin Eckler's out of town. Blake Corum can do everything that Eckler could do. He can catch passes. He can run between the tackles. So in my mind, Blake Corum in the second round of Los Angeles Chargers makes the most sense.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say. Is I think Jim Harbaugh brings that Michigan running back with him to LA, and really Corum's one of those guys that I think really raised his draft stock. I think he was probably arguably one of the best running backs in this draft class anyway. But then he came out, he hit the same amount of reps on the bench press that Joe Alt did, who's all going to be the number one tackle taken on the board potentially with 27 reps on the bench. That's insane. He looks like a Greek god out there. And then the rumors that, he's really not that great about catching, right? Or his pass catching skills leave somewhat to be desired. He put that to rest at the combine as well. He looked great catching passes at the combine. So, again, Blake Corum raised his stock. That was one of the guys I was going to talk about here. And just a split second on the combine. Anyway, I don't need to do that now, Tony. Good questions. Definitely appreciate you hopping on here with us. All right, Brant, we got just a couple minutes left here on the show. Go ahead and talk about some guys that you think did good things at the combine.
Oh, one of my favorite ones was Joe Milton out of Tennessee, the quarterback. He showed off his huge arm. I know everybody got all gaga over Anthony Richardson and his huge arm. Melton looked just as good with throwing the deep ball. I still think he's a day 3 pick in an NFL draft. Excuse me. But I do see him as a guy that's going to go to a veteran QB team and back somebody up. But I could see him in a year or two being very fantasy relevant.
Okay.
And then I got Michael Penix. I'll never not talk about one of my favorite QBs. Clearing all medical records and everything else. Everything looked good. And he also showed off his great arm. So I think he really helped himself in the draft, especially with being able to clear all medical concerns. And then I'm going to butcher all get up out of this last name. And it's the running back out of Louisville. And that's Isaac Gernardo. I'm doing my best. He was actually rated as the number one running back in athleticism at the combine. He ran a 4.3340. He was the fastest running back in the combine. I think he did a lot. This is a wide open class for running backs, so I could definitely see him crawling up boards, especially as pro days come and interviews and everything else.
Okay. Isaac Granado. So for me, Brant, the guys that I think really raised their stock, obviously it would be a disservice to not talk about Xavier Worthy. Again, the 4.21 40, unheard of. John Ross didn't necessarily pan out in the NFL, so hopefully Xavier Worthy does a little bit better, but definitely raised his draft stock. Then obviously I brought up and talked about Blake Corum, who I thought did a good job there. And then the other one that, to me, that I think lowered his draft stock, Brant, I talked about him on the show a little bit already, but Bucky Irving, the running back out of Oregon, was one of the guys I talked about that I thought could come in and potentially be a sneaky 3-down back in the NFL. He's a smaller size guy. He did not test well. His measurements weren't great. His athletic score wasn't great. That was kind of disappointing to see because this is already a downtrodden year for the running back class that most of us need to use every year to replenish our aging running backs in fantasy. And I think it's just going to be increasingly harder to do that based on the running backs that are coming out this year. So, again, this was a lot of fun today, Brant. I'm sure we're going to focus on some free agent stuff next week. We will have probably a decent amount of signings to discuss by the time we go live next Wednesday. I did want to put this out there before we get out. Brant and myself, so the Fatboyz, and then potentially another member or two from the Fantasy Holics are going to do a live show, recap and react of the actual NFL draft the same way we did last year. We'll be here with you guys live for probably 3-4 hours. We'll have a blast just like we did last season. You won't be as fun as you had last year, Brant, but it'll be good to have you in studio this year instead of in person at the draft.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun. I was a little upset I didn't get to join you guys last year. I mean, not, like I said, just a little bit. I'm sorry. I'll apologize now, but if we're going to be on for 3-4 hours, you guys are probably going to have to watch me eat some snackies and everything while sitting here doing it. But it's going to definitely be a good time. Jump on right before it kicks off, and it'll be fun to do.
Absolutely, Brant. So again, guys, I don't know how else to tell you this, but simply saying this: jump on and follow the Fantasy Holics Facebook page. These guys are so quick with information. They're beating Adam Schefter. They're beating ESPN. Get on there, get yourself up to date, keep yourself current. It's definitely the best place to pay attention for news. Very interactive group of people on that Facebook page. Follow the YouTube channel, like and subscribe so you know when these two fat mugs are going live. That way you'll get a notification when we go live for the NFL draft too. Be there or be square, Brant.
Absolutely. Also, these guys, they're posting great articles about the incoming rookies, but definitely get on, follow the Fantasy Holics. But as always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.